Greetings, everybody, and welcome to this collection overview here on the Media Files. This time around, I figured we would talk about one of my favorite actors of all time, which basically has been passed down from generation to generation. Yeah, one of those type of actors. And of course, what can I say? The man, basically, he needs no introduction. Why? Because it's John Wayne. And we're going to go through my entire collection today here in the Media Files. All right, welcome back. So, let's get these two big boxes out of the way. So first of all, these actually came together as a deluxe set originally. But when I purchased them, they were obviously separate. But, come on. I've only got two of these Ultimate Collector's Editions. Besides these two, one of them being Casablanca, and the other one being the Ben-Hur set. So first off, we have the 50th anniversary edition of The Searchers. Yeah, with the Ultimate Collector's Edition there. This movie is awesome. And we also have Rio Bravo. Yeah, one of the greatest westerns of all time. And not only that, though, it's the Ultimate Collector's Edition. But more on that movie later. So, I got a big old pile of stuff to go through here with one of my favorite all-time Western actors. But not only that, though, just one of the greatest actors ever in the history of Hollywood. So, first off, we'll start off with what I'd like to call the Final Fantasy text series. Yeah, Final Fantasy and John Wayne, obviously they have they're two completely different things, but what do I mean by that? Well, first off, we have Flying Tigers. Yeah, and what I mean by the Final Fantasy font, and if you notice, that right there, as well as the spine, is that font look a little familiar to all you Final Fantasy fans out there? Yep. It's the exact same font that is used for the games. So up next, we have Wake of the Red Witch. The Fighting Kentuckian. Yeah. This one actually hasn't even been opened yet. I'm surprised. It's one of his earliest movies, and you can tell by the not just the photo cover, but also the back photo. We have King of the Pecos. You can tell it's a little blurry there, but you get a better close-up view of that photo there. See the etching there on the hat. Looks a little jarring. Yeah, not the greatest of quality. But also up next we have the collector's edition of The Quiet Man. And this one was probably my hardest one to track down because it's probably one of his most popular movies that he's ever made. We have The Fighting Seabees. And finally, this movie obviously needs no introduction. We have Sands of Iwo Jima. Yeah. So, up next, so we have North to Alaska. Now this movie, I always thought that it was supposed to be about a fighter plane movie or something like that, but it's not, because I remember seeing this movie on my grandpa's shelf of VHS tapes, and the title sounded interesting, but I had no idea it was basically about him being a oil field agent, and I thought it was like an airplane movie. But we have Hellfighters. Yeah. So up next we have the movie that he won his only Academy Award for. We have the original True Grit. Yeah. Yeah, I actually have yet to watch this, as well as the Coen Brothers remake. So I need to get on that actually. So up next we have Fort Apache, directed by the late great John Ford. And up next we have the original Snapper Case edition of How the West Was Won. Yeah, now, granted, John Wayne actually does not have a big role in it, but I keep it because, well, uh, you know, it's huge. It's got multiple great actors, and what can I say? It's obviously a really good movie. Big major influence, I believe, for Seth MacFarlane's A Million Ways to Die in the West. But speaking of How the West Was Won, we have another edition. We have the 3-disc special edition. This is the version you want to get, if you can find it. I just got lucky to find it, but what's so cool about it is that the film itself, actually, I believe, yeah, this is actually the extended cut versus this one. This edition, the film there, as you can see, it's 155 minutes. The back of this one, 164 minutes. What's the difference? Well, this version is actually the 70mm print edition, which was shown in the Cinerama version there in theaters. That's pretty cool. So up next, my only Blu-ray of John Wayne's that I actually have. We have the Comancheros. Yeah, that's actually some pretty cool. It's awesome. And not only that, though, it's the 50th anniversary edition, and it is loaded with features. A lot of these have features, some of them don't. So up next, we have from the Centennial Collection, which you probably already saw in my Centennial Collection video, we have The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. This movie definitely needs no introduction. It's just an epic, film for its time. And, none of that, though. I mean, yeah, it got remade, but I haven't even watched the remake, actually. But, almost 3 hours of goodness. None of that, though, directed by John Wayne himself. We have The Alamo. Up next, we have 4 Western film favorites. Now, mind you, it only has 2 movies of his in it, but they're both good. So, first of all, we have The Undefeated, which is that one there. And then we also have The Big Trail, which is his first starring role. But what's interesting about this is that particular version of the movie is actually part of the 2-disc DVD set, which goes for a buttload of money, and it's out of print. So hopefully I'll get lucky one day and actually find it. So, speaking of The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, we have, basically the bare bones edition. But I believe, let me see, let me do some audio comparisons here. Actually, I think this version is the only version that actually has the restored English mono audio track on it. So there you go. That's why you have multiple versions, people. So up next, we have one of the only John Wayne films that I know of to have a score done by the legendary John Williams very early on in his career, before Star Wars. We have The Cowboys. Yeah. Up next, we have, featuring John Wayne and Montgomery Cliff, we have Red River. So, as I mentioned before, the 4-film Western favorite set, we have another edition of The Undefeated, which I don't think actually has anything on it anyway, but I like it because the disc art is different. So, up next, we have with him and co-starring a great actress, Katharine Hepburn, in Rooster Cogburn and His Lady. What is this movie? Well, this is the sequel to True Grit. Yep, that's the official follow-up. If you can pause, and you can read, it says so right there in the back. So up next, we have several films here from the John Wayne collection, which we will get to here in just a brief minute. But first off, as I mentioned in the beginning, I have the Ultimate Collector's Edition of Rio Bravo. I also have the 2-disc special edition, which basically I believe everything is the exact same on there, except it has, obviously different artwork, but everything is basically the same. And probably one of the reasons why I have 2 copies of this is because, for his, I believe it was his 75th birthday, I believe, or a few years ago. Anyways, my family decided to surprise my grandpa for his birthday to taking him to a movie theater and renting it out and watching one of his favorite John Wayne movies, which was this one. So it was, not only that though, it was so cool watching it in Blu-ray quality on a big screen. And not only that though, you got so much great detail, and just seeing the look on his face, every now and then when John Wayne would go in and blow some stuff up and take out the bad guys, you just see a big old grin on his face. It's like he was a little kid again. So, that's a special movie for me. So up next, as I mentioned, we have the John Wayne collection, and what I mean by that is basically, they all have the red tab, or the red label on the top. So here we have the Special Collector's Edition of Hondo, loaded with features. We also have Big Jake. Also got Donovan's Reef. Yeah. And this one's actually one of my favorites. Island in the Sky. I have no idea. It would be awesome if they would actually remake this movie, because this movie's actually really, really good. And what's cool about a lot of these, some of this, like specific movies, like the collector's editions, like if it says Special Collector's Edition, Restored, and Remastered on here, a lot of them actually have introductions by Leonard Maltin, which is actually pretty cool. So up next, we have The High and the Mighty. Yeah. So up next, we have Rio Lobo. Yeah. Let's see, where is it? Yeah. So what's kind of funny is that I'll mention this here in a minute. And we also have, where's it? Look, actually there's one more down here. Hang on. There it is. So up next, we have with another great actor, Kirk Douglas, we have In Harm's Way. And what's also cool is that this one here is the authentic collector's edition. We have McLintock. And not only that though, on this particular DVD only, there are 2.5 hours and exclusive commentaries only on this particular edition of the movie. Loaded with stuff. So, as you can tell right there, they're all mostly Paramount, except for one CBS DVD. But, that's literally the red tab John Wayne collection right there, which is pretty cool. So, up next, this is actually my first set of John Wayne movies I ever owned. Basically, almost everything that I basically have shown off almost to this point is actually in this set. We have the John Wayne Western Collection, which includes the Special Collector's Edition of Hondo, the Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, the True Grit Special Collector's Edition, The Shootist, which is his final film, as well as McClintock, the Authentic Collector's Edition, the Sons of Katie Elder, Rio Lobo, Big Jake, and El Dorado. So what's kind of nice is that, say, if, one of those decides to kind of crap out over time, hey, look at that, you got backups. So there you go. So up next, we have another great film of his. We have Back to Baton. Yeah. And this one here is kind of funny. So here we have another film with him and Maureen O'Hara in Rio Grande. Now, why do I find that somewhat amusing? Well, if you look at this, John Wayne actually has a Rio trilogy. Yeah, Rio Grande, Bravo, and Lobo. So there you go. You got the Rio trilogy. So up next, we have Chisholm. This one here, this one's kind of hard to get. I don't know why, it just was, but, a John Ford classic. We have They Were Expendable. And also probably one of the greatest movies about Vietnam. We have The Green Berets. Now, this particular edition is, unfortunately, the bastard flipper disc. However, I actually came across this, I think it was on either another DVD or Blu-ray, but it actually has disc art. So I might actually get the disc art one and keep that. So up next we have Big Jim McLean. Yeah, wish it was McLean. That would have can you imagine John Wayne playing an older version of John McClane? That'd be kind of, I know it'd be weird, but it'd just be kind of funny. So up next we have She Wore a Yellow Ribbon. This one here is another one of his tough as nails cop movie. We have Brannigan. Up next, we have the 2-disc special edition of Stagecoach. Now, I used to actually have this movie, but for some weird reason, whenever I put in the film disc itself, it never was played. So it would never play. Come to find out, the disc itself was defective. So I managed to find another copy of it. And thankfully, I got a working disc. So next, we have a couple. Well, this set's actually from the TMC collection. We have the John Wayne action series. We have Chisholm, the Train Robbers, McHugh, and Cahill, United States Marine, but United States Marshal. Good Lord. Up next, we have an early Western collection featuring Range Feud, Two Fisted Law, Texas Cyclone, and Angel and the Badman. Yeah, a lot of his early stuff. And mind you, some of these movies, you may have to pause this, but some of the movies in there, they're like an hour long. They're like just shy of an hour. So, second to last here, we have Flying Leathernecks. Yeah, another great World War II fighter movie, which I think this is one that I actually haven't had a chance to watch yet. And finally, this movie, basically, now this is the version of the film to get if you can find it. Now he doesn't really star in it. He actually makes more of like a cameo appearance, I guess is what you would call it back then, but he's kind of featured in it a little bit. But loaded, absolutely loaded, not just with, featurettes and whatnot, but this movie is stacked to the brim with actors, and on top of that, this movie was done with loads of extras, and not only that, 5 directors on this film. Yeah, such a major epic for the time being. And mind you, this was only about 10 years or so, about 10 to 15 years after D-Day. So here we have the Cinema Classics Collection edition of The Longest Day. Now, I don't keep this with my military movies because, specifically because it has John Wayne in it. It just, I don't know why, it just looks better on, on the John Wayne shelf and whatnot. But, what can I say? It's awesome. Just completely loaded with stuff. And not only that, though, it's got his face right there on the discard. So there you go. Yeah. So with that completes my John Wayne collection. If you are a fan of John Wayne, I highly recommend that you watch, that you kind of start off with some of his later work, specifically like Stagecoach and The Searchers, definitely, as well as Rio Bravo. But not only that, though, I mean, I know some people are like, oh, they're old movies. You don't know how good of a story it is. Yes, they may have been shot before digital times, but sometimes, those older movies can, really kind of become an influence for, the next series of filmmakers. And, like, for example, like I said, Seth MacFarlane is a huge fan of, of How the West Was Won, and that kind of inspired him to make his own, Western comedy, which was A Million Ways to Die in the West. And not only that, though, the film itself was also shot with the 70mm Cineramic lenses, which is what that movie was shot with. So yeah, what can I say? Inspiration can definitely go back a long way. And so with that, don't forget to like and subscribe. Click that notification bell. If there's any movies anybody would like me to do a close-up on, please leave a comment down below. And with that, I'll see you in the next collection.